My name, as introduced before, is Chris Emerson. I've been DJing for about 6 years. I used to have another name, but I had to change it after almost getting a lawsuit. And I now call myself Emoh Instead as my solo name. What's So Not is, of course, myself and Harley, who is known to many as Flume. Just out of interest, how many people are across all three projects? Okay, there's quite a few. That's awesome. And I'm sure everyone is across Flume. I think you wouldn't be here unless you were. I might start with a bit of history because I think it's something not many people would know, both about myself and about Harley and about how we've sort of ended up in the situations that we're in now. So I played the drums for about 10 years when I was younger. I never really practiced, so I never got that good. I could hold my own, but with anything, if you don't practice, you don't get that good at it. I spent a lot of my time in my youth bodyboarding as well, as I later found out Harley did also, and that's something we get to do together outside of music, which is a great break from it. So my path was sort of, I started DJing when I was 18. I was doing that for about 3 years, and I was doing shows around Australia, but not really getting a whole lot of money or could not make a living off it. And I realized that if I wanted to get anywhere with it, I had to go into production. I don't know, is that a path other people here have taken? Are there DJs here who have gone into production? Any hands? And what about producers who have started producing and want to just get further with production? Okay, cool. So it's about half-half. So Harley, I suppose, is the other background of starting as a producer, a bedroom producer. Now, he started writing when he was about 12 or 13, I believe. And as I go into this, I'm going to bring up a picture I had up before. Okay, here we go. Oh, wrong tab. 1 second. Okay, so these are some important people that have helped out with both of us along the way. You'll see there on the top left, this is our good friend Sean. Sean is an amazing engineer, and he produces for The Only and Neon Stereo solo. They're signed to Ministry of Sound, and they do a whole bunch of work for the Ministry of Sound artists. Now, Sean actually found Harley very early on, I think when Harley was still in high school, maybe 16 or so. So before Flume, before Future Classic, Sean, a very wise producer, found this young kid with some promising talent, and they started getting into the studio together, I think even once a week, and Harley would take home what he learned from Sean and practice it and used it to build his sound base and his knowledge and understanding of music. So that went on for a couple of years, and then along the way, Harley saw me DJing at a club, and he really wanted to get into, actually performing and being out in the scene. So he hit me up on MySpace, and he was like, "Hey, dude, really like the sort of stuff you're into. Do you want to get together and start writing some music?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what I want to do." And we sort of brought each other into the worlds that we needed to both be joining into to go somewhere with our careers. Shortly after, another person up here, and the bottom right is Adrian. So I met Adrian just through DJing around the place, and he was a very, very inspiring person and someone that showed you don't have to be doing mainstream or commercial music to be one of the best people in the country. He was #1 2 years in a row, and he was very sort of counter-mainstream culture, very cool, very tasteful, but still appealing to the masses, which is something that I've really tried to focus on with my career, is trying to stay in trend and do things that are cool, but don't be too cool, don't be obnoxious, don't be too left field that you're just completely going over people's heads and they don't get what you're about. So he was a great person to sort of, I guess, idolize and look at how he got there doing what he was doing. On the bottom left there, you'll see Nathan McClay, and I should have Chad there as well, but he's very elusive on his Facebook page, and I couldn't actually find a single photo of him with a face. He tended to be covering it or behind shades or something like that. So Nathan and Chad, they found Harley about the time that Adrian was signing us to Sweat It Out as What So Not. And so it all began. Nathan essentially found Harley with an amazing product, a gap in the market, and started some very, very well thought out strategies to develop Harley into what he is today, one of the biggest artists in the country and fast taking on a lot of the world. And with What So Not, things have been going really amazing for us as well. We were picked up by management overseas, and now, of course, we are also with Nathan and Chad, which is working great. So yeah, that's a bit of background. Oh, sorry, I've forgotten my clown friend up in the corner. That's Alistair. He's our booking agent for What So Not, and he also took on a lot of a management role early on. And I guess why I really talked about this so much is because we would not be here without all of these important, influential people up here. And it's kind of a lot of producers, I think, will sit at home and wonder, how is it possible to get to places and achieve certain things? And honestly, you can't do it on your own. You need to find people like this in your life that can inspire you, that can educate you, that can carry you through some serious hurdles. And you know, just 5 seconds or so of their wisdom can get you past 3 months of problems sitting in your bedroom. So that's something I think very important for everyone here to do is find people in the industry that you are likened to, that see something in you, and try and do work with them, and it will help you greatly. Now, this is something I would like to show you guys. It is just a couple of words that I wrote, and I'm going to put them on the screen. Okay, so you don't have to be a phenomenal producer to have success in your music career. I think a lot of people will sit at home and look at the types of things that are coming out on a couple of levels. You'll see music that you absolutely hate, that you think is horrid and disgusting, and you wonder how the hell that person got there and why they're famous and why they're making so much money. The other spectrum is you will hear some absolutely amazing music, and you'll see that sometimes the people writing terrible music are a lot bigger and a lot more famous, making a lot more money than the people writing amazing music. And you can't discredit those people that are writing music that you really don't like, even if it is terrible. You need to understand that every person has multiple assets and probably teams behind them that are doing things that are going to really push them to that level. I think a prime example is, actually, I'm not going to name any names because this is on camera, isn't it? So let's just say an extremely commercial act whose music is horrid is very charismatic and very well connected, very friendly, very great in interviews, probably good looking. They're going to do quite well. People, as I showed before, agents, managers, they're going to go, okay, I see what you have. I see what you need. You need someone to write your music for you, etc., etc. So you can't discredit people, even people that have tracks ghost written for them. You need to understand there's so much more to it. There's like the actual music is probably only 10 to 20% of being a music artist. There is so much more involved in it. There is so many other aspects that are very, very important, and you won't succeed unless you sort of understand at least that those aspects exist, and you need to either do them yourself or have a team that can do them for you. So along with that, let's just start with branding. We have a bit of an example of branding. Does everyone know our song, The Quack? Has everyone heard that? Is there anyone who hasn't heard it? Don't be shy, just put your hand up. Okay, that's great, because then I get to play it. So we wrote this track maybe a couple of years ago, actually. And it's just kind of, it was with that first wave of Tonight and Flusheramus, and we're like, let's write a trap song. And it sounded like a duck, so there's this little vocal hook. Okay, so that's our song, The Quack. And I thought it sounded like a duck, so I said to Harley, let's call it The Quack. And then I went home that night, and then I got my iPhone, and I just said, The Quack, and then pitched it down another 4 semitones, and then we have a hook. And then along with that, we found, okay, The Quack, that's kind of an interesting term in the music world. It's not something yet, actually, I'll elaborate on that further. Anyway, so before we did our big 30-date tour around the country, I was like, why don't I buy a bunch of inflatable ducks from China for $3 each, and we can just use them as props. And here we go. You can sit on them. You can put pretty girls in them and have them walk around and get photos. You can throw them into the crowd, and you can even crowd surf on them. So this was just a bit of a marketing thing. It was a bit of fun. And along with merchandise and giving merchandise to the crowd, we found it was a great way to break it up from just being a DJ set. We would have one duck and maybe 1 or 2 T-shirts, and we'd do an hour set, say. And every 20 minutes, we'd throw out a different item. We'd get on the mic, we'd sort of G them up a bit, and it stopped it just from being, just music for an hour. It was like music for 20 minutes. You see, they might be losing it a bit in the club setting, and you say, okay, who wants the duck? And then we bring out like a duck, and we play The Quack, and everyone just put their hands up and just go crazy, and, sort of involuntarily, they're all wasted. And then you'd bring out a shirt 20 minutes later when you feel like you're losing them a bit, and like, who wants a What's in a T-shirt? And then they'd all scream, and then we tell the photographer to take a photo right at the moment they all put their hands up. And then everyone thinks that they have their hands up like that for the entire show. It's really simple, but it works. And then, other promoters will see, oh, I shouldn't have said this anyway. No, I don't care. They're pretty fun shows anyway, despite not always having hands. Now, another one I want to quickly go over. Has everyone heard of twerking? Yes? Okay. Silly question. Now, I haven't done any research on this. I'm just going off what I know. But Diplo brought out a track called Express Yourself. Does everyone know this song? It came out about 2 years ago. Is it 2 years ago? Let's check the YouTube date. Yeah, maybe last year, mid last year. Okay. Anyway, this was where the term "express yourself" came from, and it's essentially twerking, I believe, just the arse dance, like this. Okay, so after he brought out this video, suddenly Twitter, Instagram, Facebook didn't have hashtags back then. Everywhere you started seeing this hashtag, express yourself, and a girl would put a photo up of their ass jiggling or a video of their ass jiggling. And it just was a phenomenon. It just swept all through, and Diplo started posting on his Instagram, on his Twitter, just reposting people that were hashtagging express yourself, and just girls essentially shaking their asses. And I will show you this is a cropped version of his Instagram feed to prove a point. So you have just chilling with Pharrell, bottom left. There's a cool little show, and then just a whole lot of ass. And he actually has almost 500,000 followers on Instagram. And I would say a lot of that is just people that want to see a lot of twerking. So again, just, branding, marketing. It's not all about music. You can put out a track once a year. If you're staying relevant, you're staying in the media, if people are talking about you. Another prime example is Diplo has a record label, Mad Decent. So anytime Mad Decent does something great, they put out a groundbreaking record, they put out some music which is getting high circulation, people will start talking about Diplo again. So he almost doesn't have to do a track, and he can stay one of the most relevant musicians on the entire scene. Even another example, Daft Punk haven't done a show an entire year, and they were ranked as, what number was it in the DJ Mag Top 100? As 22nd best DJs in the world, and they haven't played a DJ set in a very long time. It's a prime example. They're just in circulation, so people think about them, and when something like that comes up, they put their name forward. Another great thing is humour. My favourite act for social media humour is probably Dylan Francis. Does everyone know Dylan Francis? Okay. I loved his first EP. It was really amazing. The stuff after, not as much, but I'm not going to discredit him because of my personal taste. If you look at his website, it is the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. So instead of selling just merchandise, he will offer to put together an IKEA bed for you for $1,000. Selling just old cables he found in his house for $50. He will do your tax for you for $750. I remember this one sold out, and it was probably because it was so difficult to do, but he would come to your house and bake you cookies for like a couple of $1,000s. It gets funnier. He remixed a Blink-182 song for you for $10,000. My personal favorite is this one. He will join the army for $1 million. Just imagine Dylan Francis joining the army for $1 million. Hilarious. Anyway, this is just another prime example of things that are very important if you want to be a successful artist. If you just focus on music, you might not get noticed. If you focus on music and you focus on your branding and being humorous, people are going to share your stuff because you're humorous and because you're interesting. And your music doesn't necessarily have to be the only thing about you that can be shared. Okay, I had a bunch of stuff here about mentors, but I already talked about that more at the start, so I'll skip over that. I guess finalizing on all these things I'm saying that are important besides music, at the end of the day, you need to remember you really have to work your ass off if you want to do anything with this. You can't just be complacent and be lazy and be bitter because someone else is doing well. You really have to just throw yourself out there, push yourself into the right avenues, get people behind you, be proactive. Be positive, don't be negative. People who are doing well don't want negative people around because it's really hard to stay positive if you're really stressed and really busy. And all you want around you is good people, happy people who are giving you positive energy. So just be a positive person and be graceful, be respectful, and I'm sure you can do quite well. Let's get into some actual tracks now. All right, so this is a track I wrote quite hungover in a hotel in Bali. So it's not a very positive song. It's quite aggressive. And I was listening to some hip-hop while I was there, so I was really interested in this track that Pusha T did because it was quite simple and it was quite aggressive. It had a rock feel. It had like a real bass guitar kind of bottom end to it. So this was my sort of remake of that concept. Oh, that's very quiet. Do you know why that would be so quiet? I'll just crank it. Okay, so that's just the bass line I wrote. And this is something I would want to talk about. When you're producing, there's sort of two spectrums of it. As Anthony was talking about before, there's like the production, the engineering, and then there's the musicality and tonality and creativity and things like that. So I find when it comes to producing, you need to be very aware of both ends of the spectrum. You need to be aware of the engineering side, so like the strength and power of sounds and the quality of sounds. And then you also need to be aware of, does that feel right? Does it have the right kind of tone? Does it have character? So what I've done here is there's a sub, which is that. And then following exactly the same pattern is a top layer, which sounds like a bass guitar. So on an engineering front, this gives you the energy and the power of a very deep, clean sub with the character of more of a bass guitar. And when you put them together, it just sounds like a bass guitar, but it's really strong and punchy. Now, I play the whole track. It's got percussion. It's quite simple, this track, by the way. This is just an idea I wrote in a hotel room, so I'm sorry if you're not blown away by it. So it's just a hip-hop beat. The kick is something you might take a quick look at as well. It's, I guess, a little unconventional compared to a lot of electro dance kind of tracks. Really, it's just a bunch of side chaining of sounds. So This is my punchy kick. The one with the energy that's short and sharp and just is constantly going. And essentially everything's just side-chained around that. Even if it hits on the same note, it's just side-chained to get out of the way of it. Oh, this is really hard. I got to put the mic down. Okay, so this top one here is my my reverbed kick. And it's just got a bunch of glue compressor, took a bit of the bass out so it doesn't clash too much, and it's been sidechained to that punchy kick. I don't know if everyone can see that. And then there's just some more character kicks in there. This other one that comes in sort of halfway through the phase. Let me just solo it. So again, that's just a reverb kick on the top with the bass taken out, and then a really aggressive punchy kick on the bottom with a lot of bass energy. And then when you put it all together, you just get a nice sort of interesting loop like that. Does anyone have any questions on something in this project? Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, I'll move on to something else. I'm going to open up now a track I recently did called Why Can't You Say So? It was actually the first original I've put out. I'll open up this version. What I might do, I will play it for you in iTunes while it loads up. That probably makes the most sense. Oh wait, it's already loaded. No need. Okay, so this is the song. Okay, so everyone gets the idea with that. Has everyone heard that song or not until now? Put your hands up if you haven't heard it. Oh, I should have said it the other way around. Okay. Now, a lot of people that had heard it and were interested in it were asking me about the horn, the big brass horn in it. So I'll just play it for you. So this might be something good to talk about. This was one of the better synths that I've made, which is why I ended up making an entire song and not just getting stuck because I couldn't get past a loop because there wasn't anything interesting in the track. And essentially what it is, it's not a sample. It's actually, is everyone have Sylenth or familiar with Sylenth? Yes? So who isn't familiar with Sylenth? Okay, cool. You should get Sylenth. It's pretty good. It's probably just my favorite all-rounder synth, just for all sorts of sounds. It has pretty decent bank, and it's quite simple to use. Okay, I'm not really going to go to too much detail within Sylenth, but essentially it's just a Moog preset that I did a couple of things to. I can't actually remember what I did and what the regular preset is, but probably just added a little bit extra distortion here and maybe took a bit of the reverb out or added some more. What I did in here was just a little bit of EQing. I took out all the low end. This is, the brass sound probably in the mid to higher range. I don't really want it clashing with the subs and the kicks and things like that, so I just took the bass out. Good old sausage fattener. Does everyone know what sausage fattener is? You turn it up, it gets really shitty. Yeah, he's pissed off now. Yeah. And if I play that, I'm going to turn it down because it might be really loud. Yeah. Just distorts the shit out of it. Okay, so this is as I was talking about before, this is my character layer, this one I was just in. Taking out the bottom end because I don't want it to clash too much. I boosted it a bit with sausage fattener, give it some grit, give it some power, give it some more volume. Oh, that's right. This is the actual EQ that's applied to it. It's taking out a lot more bass than this first one. This first one is just a mirror of the the track above, the dry track. This is the wet part of the horn. So this EQ is what's actually being applied to it, and you can see the difference. This one has a lot more bass in it, and this one has a lot more bass taken out. And then on this track, of course, I have the reverb at the end here, which is what makes it sound so wide and sparse and hold. Now, in contrast, there's this horn, which you can hear is a lot shorter and sharper, and it has a lot more punch to it. So that one is essentially the energy, or the dry horn, the engineering sort of aspect of it, and then this one is just character building on that same sound by just adding some width and some sparsity to it. So when you put them together, that's what they sound like. So yeah, that's probably all I wanted to show you in that project. Probably I'm going to open up one more thing. Is everyone familiar with our remix for Major Lazer, the Get Free remix? Yes? No? Put your hands up if you are familiar. Oh, wow. I could have done that either way and it would have looked good. Okay, let me open that up and then I'll get talking. Does anyone have any questions on this project before I open up something? Hey, we got one.
So just quickly,
Yep.
You use a lot of extra tracks for the verbs. Is there a reason you do that as opposed to returns?
Oh, I'm just, I'm not very good at Ableton, to be honest. I don't actually know a whole lot. I sort of just know what I know, and I actually still study with these guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm not really a producer. I just sort of, I know what I know and I apply that to what I do. But there's a lot of things that I don't know and a lot of things I could probably do better. And that's why I encourage everyone, no matter what level you get to, you should always still be learning and looking for things that you might not understand. Working with other people is always a great way of looking at different techniques and maybe a way you never thought of, just doing something a lot simpler, like exactly like you just said there, I should be using sends and instead of just making other tracks and using my CPU up, which is what I tend to do all the time.
Yeah, it depends. I was just wondering if, you use a different sort of reverb on each sound or something like that.
Oh, I do actually. Maybe that's why I've never done that before. But yeah, I mean, I suppose if you're sending it to a bus, and you can just apply how strong you want the effect instead of constantly making a new one and then choosing the exact settings. But that's more a flaw in my production technique than a choice that you guys should follow. Is there any other questions on this project? Okay, cool. I'll move on to the next one. So everyone's pretty familiar with this track. That's good. We get asked about this one all the time. This was sort of our breakthrough song, I guess. This was what got us noticed. We did an EP on Sweat It Out, and we had some really great feedback from the mail out from, let's say, Boys Noise and Sinden and Bag Raiders, Douster, and a few others. And we didn't get any gigs for about 3 or 4 months, and we're like, oh, what's going on? I thought this was really cool and all these cool guys liked it, and we didn't get any work, we didn't get any popularity, and it was really the first time coming back to those other things I was talking about branding, about marketing, about having a good team behind you. You're not just going to get work if you're writing good music. You need to be writing good music, you need to have a good team behind you, you need to be promoting and marketing yourself or having someone do that for you. So a way we decided would be a good idea to try and get some notice was to bootleg a track of a popular artist. And this day I actually went around to Harley's house and I showed him the Flostradamus remix of, what was it? Original Dawn. Does everyone know that song? I guess it was probably the track that pioneered the new wave of trap music and made it quite popular in the mainstream market. And I showed this track to Harley. At the time we were doing, I guess, Can Blaster, house and future beats and things like that. And I showed him that track and he was like, wow, it's just so big, has so much energy. And we were like, let's give that a shot. And we wrote this percussion actually for an original. That's it. And we sort of got nowhere with it, and we were a bit frustrated. And then about an hour before I was going to leave his house, we're like, why don't we turn it into a bootleg, like we'd been talking about? And I was like, well, what tracks are cool? And we went on popular charts on Hypem, and he's like, oh yeah, there's this Get Free by Major Lazer that's actually really nice. It's got a great vocal, great melody. And we were like, great, that's exactly what we're missing. We've got a cool drum beat, but we don't have a melody, we don't have a hook. So we literally just dropped it over the top of our beat. And that all sounded great, and we were really excited. We're like, yeah, this could be really good. So I went home, and then a few hours later, Harley calls me up, and he's like, oh man, I think I've nailed it. Like, you should hear this. I made this really, really crazy bass line. And then this is, of course, how it goes. Check it out. And that is pretty much the entire track. It's a couple of drums, the Get Free original, and just a single line on Simplant that sounds like this. And the track without that bass line is... So you don't have to make a massively complicated track for it to be quite popular and well received. It can be so simple. And to further show this to you guys, a lot of people ask what the hell that bass sound is. Now, it's Simplant. Do you guys know about Simplant? Okay, Simplant is notoriously the most difficult synth to use in the entire world, which is why not many people know about it and not many people use it. But it is amazing. You don't have oscillators and resonance and things such. You have DNA, and you need to reconstruct the DNA of the plant that you are planting. Obviously, a lot of people take a lot of acid or something along those lines who design this. And you can sort of like grow... That's the sort of sounds that it makes. Is this going to do it? Oh, that's right, I got to arm it. Okay, so that's the kind of sound, and then you can grow the plant out. You can adjust the effect and the release. It does have release. I'm being correct, aren't I? Makes it shorter. Okay, cool. So I'm going to show you really how simple this sound was. Let me just put these into a chain, which is just, again, Sausage Fattener, our old friend. And Isotope, if you're not familiar with Isotope, it's usually used as like a very basic mastering preset. It can be used for all sorts of great widening and things like that. I actually have no idea how to use it, and I don't think Harley does either, to be honest. But we put it on and it sounded great, and that's a bit of a motto we have. If it sounds good, go with it. There's a lot of rules that we break all the time, and engineers get quite angry when we send them stems and there's things going all over the place, but they sort it out for us, and then the tracks sound great. So let me just group these, and then I'll start showing you about this bass sound. Okay, so this is it on its own, and this is it without the effect on it. So that's when I'm holding the note down. It's obviously somewhere in this crazy DNA, there's like a loop. You can see there's an envelope loop just there. So that loop is making the sound go like this if I constantly hold it. Now, if I just turn that down a few octaves, it sounds as such. And if I raise this effect, let me see if that's the right. Okay, that's it. This is the right octave. So this is the Get Free bass, and literally all we did was crank the effect. And there we go. That is all it was. And if you want me to actually play the song for you, if I hold it down, it's just like a wild, uncontrollable chainsaw. And all we've done is just hit the notes that are in the right sequence. So. And that's pretty much it. And then just Sausage Fattener to make it big and loud, and I think Isotope to widen it a bit. There we go. And you got yourself a banger. Okay, anyone have any questions? At the back there?
I love to produce like trappy kind of music as well.
Yeah, cool.
And seeing as it's very like 808 kind of sub-based music.
Yep.
I was just wondering how you sort of make your 808s hit so hard and so like full and fat, and if there's any tricks or tips to sort of, you know, making them sit in the mix like really well.
The drums or the bass lines or?
Well, also I guess my question's like, do you use samples or make it like separate the subs from the kicks or anything 808 based?
That's a good question. We usually do kick layering, so we'll have a little chick, like a shaker or something, turned down very, very quiet just so it makes the tiniest little pinch of a sound. So yeah, we have a little click as such, and then we have a big, thick, sort of meaty bass. Oh, why are you doing that? Here we go. Like, as such, this is just a really strong 808 with a little bit of a punch on it. And if I go into here, I do believe there is another layer. Oh, by the way, this kick in Get Free is horribly put together, but it just happens to sound nice. Again, it's one of those things, if an engineer saw what we actually did to make that sound, they would be really pissed off at us. So that's the low end, and I've soloed it inside here so you can't hear the high end, but let me show you. So this is the high end. Just a crunchy sort of... I don't even know if we EQ'd that. No, we didn't. We just put two kicks on top of each other. Now, we probably should have EQ'd it, but whatever, it sounded fine at the time. So we have this is, again, our character layer. This is what gives that kick its character. And then this is the sub layer, which gives it the energy and the power.
So you will use 808s rather than a straight sub with just a long decay and no sustain. You'll use 808 samples or I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but
I get what you're saying. In this particular track, this was more of a beat track rather than a trap kind of track where it's a constant sub. So say the Quack has is that what you know the song?
Yeah, when you hear those trap songs and the 808s are just really long and booming, just sort of really sustained kind of ones as well. And
I think a lot of them will have a kick, even if it's very, very small, like a 909 or something, to give that punch in the sort of 100 hertz frequency range. You need something there to just come through and punch, and the sub will dip for a tiny second just with compression, and then the sub will be sustained. So it sounds like it's constantly going, but it feels like it's got this hit to the start of it, and it's because it does. It has a kick, usually a very small kick that comes in right at the start, and then the sub quickly side chains back in, and it sounds like it's constantly going.
Yeah, that answered my question.
Yeah,
that's good.
Cool. Awesome. Any other questions? Somewhere over there.
Hey, when you guys are designing sounds, do you use much presets, say in FM8 Massive versus making them from scratch?
We don't usually use Massive. We use, you know what, we pretty much just use Silence and Simplant. And there's another one called Subboom Bass, which is pretty good for getting bass sounds. That might be good for your trappy stuff. Check out Subboom Bass by Rob Pappen, I believe. Harley's quite good at coming up with very authentic analog kind of sounds just from building something in Silence. But generally, I find it's just so much easier to start with a preset, get a rough idea about what you want. Say, I want a really spacey kind of sound, and you'll go to Silence and go to the keys section where it's got a lot of reverb on it and a very large release and things like that. But yeah, you can really do it either way. It's more up to how you feel you're strongest in your production level. If you're quite strong at making up things from scratch, then I would suggest doing that. If you find it's faster and easier to just start with a preset and tweak it to your best ability, then I would do that as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I'm trying to learn kind of from scratch how to make FM synthesis and stuff. I'm not sure if it's worth doing that versus just going presets and modifying them. I
don't know what Adam would say to this. I would just get a preset. But I'm doing a course with the guys at Liveschool at the moment, and they're really going back to basics, and I'm really realizing how much I don't understand and I don't know, and how much more beneficial it would be for me if I did know those things. So I would suggest for time's sake, yeah, just use presets, but maybe at the same time try and educate yourself onto what is actually happening. But I would just focus on what is most beneficial for you. I wouldn't focus on it for the sake of learning it and for the sake of being able to do it if you can just do it quickly and easily some other way.
Yep, cool, thanks.
Anyone else? Yeah, the front. Oh, where we got our drum samples from. Michael D. Francesco. He touch sensitive. Does everyone know touch sensitive? He's also a member of Vanshi. He used to teach at Liveschool. I think he still does. I'm not sure. Adam, are you somewhere that can answer that, or Rob? Does D. Francesco still teach here? He's teaching last week. There we go. The one and only is still with us. So he started teaching and Harley started teaching, and they got talking, and he actually gave us like quite a few packs that he collected over the years. And what I would suggest is if you're writing a certain genre, do not get packs in that genre. Get packs outside of that genre so that what you are doing is different to what everyone else is doing. So trap got really big. Everyone started getting trap packs, and then everyone started sounding exactly the same. Whereas we started doing trap with hip hop drums like that we found from hip hop packs, and even going into, say, electronica kind of sample packs and getting really organic sounds and things and adding them in instead of just doing the norm. So we get our drums from a variety of different places. I tend to look up hip hop based drums. They're excellent quality, excellent sound. We don't even need that at the moment, actually, so I'm just going to leave that off. Yeah, that would be what I suggest. If you're really into your drums, look up all kinds of hip hop packs. Anyone else? Oh, there's more.
Cool. How do you set up your compressors so you get the kind of nice ducking sound that gives the kind of the in your tracks? Like, what do you do with the attacks to everything? Just go.
Man, we don't. It's not that complicated. Like we just. I think it's just from sidechaining lots of things. I mean, there's probably some more complex ways we could do it better and faster, but all we do is like sidechain a lot of things so that the kick actually does come in really hard, and then everything sort of moves out of its way.
So does that mean you've got like a really fast attack and then just a...
I don't really know. We just kind of do it to sound on the day, you know. It's just get a big fucking kick with like I was saying before, when I'm talking about the trap kicks, you have a very short, energetic, punchy kick that only happens for like a few milliseconds, and then you have maybe a bassy kick coming in behind it that's more sustained, and that gives you that real energy and the pop. And then you just have your chords and things that suddenly dip out of its way and come back up as well. So I think that's probably... Yeah, what?
So do you sidechain a lot of the tracks, like the different channels on your track?
Yeah. Pretty much all of them. Yeah, pretty much everything gets sidechained, and that's probably why it all moves, is because it literally is all being moved out of the way. Things that are in the higher frequencies, we sidechain less, because they're not going to be clashing as much with the deeper, heavier sounds in the bass than in the kick. Any more questions?
So what's your best method to know, like, when you've lost perspective that you've been working on?
I mean, it's going to be different for everyone, but usually every couple of hours, if you're not on a roll, if you're getting stuck, if you're scratching your head on things, you need to go somewhere else. You need to go chill out. You need to go stop thinking about music. I'll go for a surf. I'll walk down the road, get a coffee, and then walk back. And usually just from taking my head out of that space that I'm in, you just have all these ideas popping subconsciously without, being trapped in that mind frame that you've been in for a few hours. There's no set time as to when you need to do that, but I'd really just suggest if you are stuck at a point, you feel like you're just sort of going in circles for maybe 20 minutes, then I would say, yeah, you need a break. It doesn't have to be a long break, it can just be a quick break. As well, like I try to at least one day a week do absolutely nothing to do with music. I'll just go down to the beach, I'll go for a freaking bushwalk, like whatever, just take my mind off things, try and try and recollect the creativity that's sort of wandering around everywhere, and you can just get very stuck in modes and stuck in thought processes that are quite negative or unhelpful or blocking, your potential.
Yeah, thanks, man.
No worries. Any more questions? There's one. There's probably a lot of people, and I think this is kind of important as well. If you start to idolize any one person, you're probably only ever going to be as good as... that's what I needed. Thanks, mate. If you start to idolize any one person, you're probably only ever going to be near to good as them, not as good as them, and you're never going to be able to surpass them. So I'd very much suggest looking up to a bunch of people, looking at what they are doing great, looking at what they're not doing great, doing what they're not doing great better. And if you see a flaw in a very great person, and then you take a look at someone else who is doing that exact thing better, idolize that section of that person, and then continue on the path, and you could even surpass them, you'll find, because you're surpassing their flaws as a way around them.